Crisis is a disruption of the status quo, I think. Or crisis is anything that disrupts your normal flow or plan of business.
Right. Another important aspect of managing crisis, I think, the reaction time and the tone of the reaction.
Research that was done regarding marketing in the time of crisis, what they were saying is that 80% of your messaging should be empathetic.
Empathetic, right.
Should be helpful.
Right.
And only 20% should be geared towards promotional messages. It's
Right.
about selling.
Right.
Right? I think every marketeer must be forthright in coming up with honesty. That if we made a mistake, we made a mistake.
Admit it. Does transparency or openness work the same way for all the audiences during tough times?
I don't think crisis has a name or number, whether it's a premium product or a mass product.
What internal alignment is needed between marketing and other departments during a brand crisis, you think, from your experience?
Crisis se shomay, the teams need to sit together. There's a lot to be said about internal marketing,
Right.
about internal coordination. And crisis, in most cases, is not only a marketing issue.
Every brand at some point of time had to confront a crisis. In today's episode of Marketing Unboxed, we go deeper into the stories and strategies to know how do these brands respond to these unexpected hits. To unbox crisis marketing, today I am with someone who has been in the trenches for over 3 decades. Please welcome Sania Mahmood, the CEO and the co-founder of Build Nation. Sania, we always start with a small discussion with our guests about their studies and careers so that our audience can know more about our guest. Can you please walk us through about your career a bit?
So I started my career while I was still doing my MBA, my professional career. But to tell you frankly, I've had working experience since the age of 16.
Oh,
Okay.
great.
Because even immediately after I did my O-levels, I started teaching at a school, Radiant International School there.
Oh, sir.
I always had a streak of independence, financial independence. So that,
Okay.
I think that also sort of kind of made me who I am today as
Today,
well, in a
right.
way, right?
Right.
Okay. Not that, I think my parents were always very, very supportive. I didn't really need to work or anything like that, but I think they were always supportive in terms of allowing me to go forth into the world. So that was the first part of my non-professional career. So I did teach, I did librarian work and so on and so forth. Tapor when I joined IBA, tapor IBA te porte final semester শেষ হলো, internship করলাম Unilever. তখন then Lever Brothers Bangladesh. It was in
late
Kalurghat.
90s?
It was in 95.
95,
It was exactly mid-90s. I always like telling this story because I think these were very transformative as far as my personality or my career views and everything goes. So Kalurghat at that time, and maybe it still is, it's almost rural. It was almost in a rural area,
Right.
very outskirts of Chittagong.
Right.
And for a young unmarried girl to go there was really quite unheard of. So after the internship, the Lever Brothers at the time, they had a recruitment. They called for recruitment applicants and everything. So naturally, I applied. So in that batch, actually, in marketing, I was the only one who was recruited.
Okay.
Right? Finance, there were 2 other people who were recruited, and I was the I was the only recruit from marketing as a management trainee. So that marked the beginning of my career. I took a 2-month or 3-month.
Was it in sales? Like Unilever?
No. At that time, it was pure marketing.
Pure
They did
marketing,
not
okay.
have that sales orientation,
okay,
that starting with
right.
sales orientation. So I was recruited. I took a 2-month break in between because I was just graduating from IBA. So I wanted a break and then came back and joined in October. So that was the beginning of my career.
And you were posted in Chittagong
Yes,
that time?
yes.
Okay.
And that's when I had to take my own apartment. So at that time, Lever Brothers was not as forthcoming as they were when we were management trainees. I had to find my own space, but to be fair, they were very, very helpful.
So it was not very challenging for you to find an apartment for you
Thankfully
because back then, like a girl, like
By
newly recruited
herself,
at this age,
yes.
by herself.
Lever Brothers was always touted to be, and Chittagong, it's always known to be a very good organization, right? But after that, so Unilever, I was there for about 3 years. I moved to Reckitt while still in Chittagong, and Reckitt's headquarters was also in Chittagong at that time.
Right.
While in Reckitt, we actually moved, the headquarters moved from Chittagong
Sriram
to
to
Dhaka.
Dhaka, right. Did we have any career break in between? Like
Not at that point, a little
Alright,
later.
okay.
A little
Alright,
later.
okay.
So Reckitt, in fact, I left Reckitt because my son was 2.5.
Okay.
So after about 4.5 years or 5 years in Reckitt, I was realizing that my son was being quite, it was a difficult time because every day we would have separation anxieties and showdowns and things like that, and he would be crying his heart out, and it would be heart-wrenching for me to leave him behind. So I'd always be sneaking out and take him to the chad, or that make some excuses so that he didn't see me, right? So, and after a point it was becoming a little too stressful. Plus at that point, so this is from a career perspective, I was in marketing, right, all these years, for about 4 years, starting from the Lever Brothers days into Reckitt also. I had already moved to Reckitt at that time, but 2 years into Reckitt, he moved into Reckitt as the marketing director. So I was compelled to move out of the marketing department, and voluntarily so.
I understand.
So I opted out of marketing department, and that's when I switched to supply chain. So I was looking after import buying.
Okay, marketing to supply chain.
Yes, so that and that I think was actually a very good decision for that slab of time, because I was there in supply chain for 2 years. I was manager import buying, and then I became the procurement manager as well.
I'm sure you learned a lot from there.
It was wonderful.
Yeah,
I think, and a lot of the crisis management that we talk about, I can appreciate that. Right? I can appreciate it from a supply chain point of view.
I truly believe, because when you work with the supply chain, because then you understand the total value chain of a product, that you actually cannot get this idea if you're in the marketing team, core marketing team.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And I think it's the two sides of the coin of the me, right? Marketing is driving sales, and supply chain is ensuring supply, products, right? I think it was it gave me a good 360-degree view of the business, right? And how to manage net working capital and so on and so forth. So that was Reckitt. So as I was saying, 2 years into supply chain, so this was 4 years after I already entered Reckitt, is when I started getting this anxiety thing about my son, and that I'm really neglecting him. And that's when I decided that I think I need to give my career a break.
Oh, okay.
And Square Toiletries, I was recruited in 2003, I think it was. So Square Toiletries was obviously after Unilever or Reckitt Benckiser. Square Toiletries was an eye-opener.
So you were in Reckitt Benckiser or Reckitt and Coleman then?
When I joined, it was Reckitt and Coleman. By the time I left, it was Reckitt Benckiser, because the transition had happened then.
Okay.
So when the merger or acquisition from Benckiser had happened at that time.
Yeah, I could remember it was back then. Similar sort of time.
So that was maybe about, when was it? I would say it was 2001 or maybe 2000 that the merger took place.
Right.
So I was in the company at Reckitt at that time. So after that, to jai hok, যখন Square Toiletries I joined as head of marketing, which was a manager marketing role probably.
Okay.
Quite a culture shock. Right? Fair, they were very structured, diligent, disciplined.
Yeah.
But the decision making was very different.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, because Square, we know, like one of the most structured local companies in our country.
Yes. So the decision making was very different. I think Unilever and Reckitt, যেভাবে decision making, there was a lot of global insights. There were a lot of...
Yeah, of course, like multinational companies, they follow a process. I think back then, lot of local companies, they haven't, that practice of, making a process that will individually run.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole whether it's innovation management, whether it's people management,
right,
or even your marketing budget management, everything had its own process, right? So anyway, I'm grateful to it because it helped me to see yet another facet
of corporate life.
Of corporate life, exactly, right? So soon thereafter, at the end of 2000, I'm thinking it was 2003, right? Yeah. Or maybe it was 4 by then. That's when Actel approached me. It was Actel at the time. So
then again, Actel before Robi.
Yes, but Taro Pore. So this is Actel, and I joined there as the AGM of of marketing. And here, I think I was grateful for the buffering that I had at Square Toiletries, because Actel was yet another story, right? Another experience completely. First of all, it was telecom. Second of all, they manage their brands and businesses in a very different way. Everything was on a project basis, whereas wherever I had worked previously, everything was based on brand plans, annual plan, strategic plan, based on a brand, right? But in telecoms, everything was project. Oh, it একটা campaign. Oh, it একটা campaign. You know, everything was very standalone and
very ad hoc,
modular, ad hoc as well. Actel ছিলাম 2 বছর. তারপর Actel থেকে I moved to Citycell. Citycell, I was there for another about 4 years. Citycell থেকে I came back to Actel, and we oversaw the entire, I led the team that saw the rebranding of Actel to Robi. So that was in 2010.
Okay.
And in 2011, I moved to bKash. So my years in telecom, there were 8 years in telecom between Robi, Citycell, Actel, Robi, and Citycell. I think those were the most vibrant and challenging years in telco. I left Robi in 2011. And I joined bKash. So the interesting thing is I have been in these industries at the early stages of their life, right? Of the life cycle. Whether it was Robi, when I joined Actel, it was very young. Yeah. The telecoms business was still very stagnant. It was not so cutthroat. It was not so competitive. It was just Grameen and Actel to start with. So tokhon we saw the entire vibrance and the dynamism and everything come in, right? Tapor, even when I joined bKash, absolutely new industry. Nobody knew what MFS was, right? So our task was actually to educate people. What is bKash? Right? So do not flexi your money. Use bKash, and what the benefits are. Use your own phone, blah, blah, blah. All of that education came in. So bKash, I was there for 2 years. I just loved my time at bKash as well. তারপর বিকাশের পরে in 2000, so bKash was from 11 to 13, and 2014 I moved to Perfetti. So bKash, I was head of marketing, and then at Perfetti I joined as marketing director. And Perfetti is, as you know, they are
so
confectionery business.
You had your longest career in Perfetti, right?
Yes, for 8 years. Yeah. So, and then more than 8 years, almost 8.5 years. So I was in Perfetti from 2014 onwards, right? Up to 2022.
Right.
So that was a long span, managing many brands, looking at a lot of situations, going through a lot of situations and everything. All of it in Bangladesh. For a short time, I was also in charge of the Sri Lanka marketing portfolio, till I left actually. And then COVID hit, and then after COVID, I decided to kind of just step back and take it a little easy. COVID was a difficult time for me, my family, everybody. So I just thought that, no, I think it's enough is enough, and I should sort of give myself some time and then do things that were important to me. And then after that, I started actually teaching at IBA. So back to square one, teaching. So I taught at IBA that first semester after leaving Perfetti, and then I taught for 2 semesters, 1 year at Brack University also, and right now I'm teaching at IBA again.
Oh,
so yeah.
Wonderful.
So that's pretty much my journey, professional.
So you have covered all industries we have in our country, and if you can name off. আর কিছু তো বাকি নাই কোনো ইন্ডাস্ট্রি মনে হয়, খালি
ইন্স্যুরেন্স আছে, সার্ভিস ইন্ডাস্ট্রিজ হয়তো আছে, yeah. But yeah, I think I've had the privilege of working in many industries, meeting a lot of people, working with a lot of brands, going through different situations of different brands,
All those changes, rebranding, mergers.
Yes.
You have seen everything.
Yeah. It's been good.
After working so many years in all the sectors like telco, fintech, or FMCG, I'm sure you and your team have had experiences of many crises, especially related to marketing. From that perspective, how would you define crisis marketing or managing any crisis in context of marketing?
hesitate to say crisis marketing. I'd rather say crisis management.
Management, okay.
Right? Because it actually encompasses, it cannot encompass only one department, right? I mean, in this hyper-connected world,
Right.
everything is interconnected, whether it's supply chain. And the more and as you said, during my Reckitt days, the more I appreciate the fact that, and marketing should not just thump its own chest and say, hey, marketing is having a problem. No, it's not. Everybody's in the game together. Right? So to me, crisis management, or crisis first, if I were to define, and I'm not even defining, I'm just saying what it means to me, right? Crisis is a disruption of the status quo, I think. Or crisis is anything that disrupts your normal flow or plan of business. Right? So we make plans, we have annual plans, and we factor in certain headwinds and tailwinds and positives and negatives and certain things that can be positive or that can go wrong. But beyond that, when there is an unknown, that becomes a crisis. So we do take some mitigating factors. We do take some mitigating steps during our annual plan. But then when it goes beyond that, it's a completely unknown territory. That's when crisis comes in.
Yeah, and there are many kind of crises, like political, social, religious, or economic. And আমাদের দেশের কনটেক্সটে যখন কোনো ব্র্যান্ড কোনো ক্রাইসিস ফেস করে, তখন we see the first hit gets the marketing department. আপনার ক্যারিয়ারে কখনো have you ever faced any make or break situation?
Yeah, of course, certainly. প্রথম হচ্ছে that, okay, crisis যে শুধু মার্কেটিংয়ে হিট করে, that's not necessarily true, because nowadays তো যে কোনো জায়গাতেই ক্রাইসিস হিট হতে পারে, সাপ্লাই চেইন ডিসরাপশনও হতে পারে, রাইট? বাট মার্কেটিং হ্যাজ টু face the heat because they are the interface with the consumers. যেরকম সাপ্লাই চেইন, the Gulf War or the Ukraine-Russia war, যে ডলার ডিভ্যালুয়েশন, টাকা ডিভ্যালুয়েশন, সেটা তো সাপ্লাই চেইনে কস্ট ইনফ্লেশনের জন্য তো সাপ্লাই চেইন, অফ কোর্স সাপ্লাই চেইন বিকামস দেন দি department that has to face that kind of crisis. হ্যাঁ, এখন আমাদের পাওয়ার যখন থাকে না, আমাদের পাওয়ার ডিসরাপশনস যখন খুব হয়, জেনারেটর চলবে না, কি করবে, ডিজেল দিয়ে চালাবে নাকি ন্যাশনাল গ্রিড দিয়ে চালাবে, all of that they have to manage. Right? So there can be crisis from, and reputational crisis যদি হয়, তখন corporate affairs steps in, PR department steps in, right? Directors নিয়ে যদি কোনো কথা ওঠে, or anything can happen. ফ্যাক্টরিতে কোনো ঝামেলা হলো, সেটাও লাইসেন্স নিয়ে কোনো ঝামেলা হলো. So but when it's related to the product or the consumer, of course it's a marketing issue.
Yeah, coming to that point, like যখন external crisis এর কথা বলছি আমি, that related to the brands or the consumers,
right?
ঠিক আছে, ওই পার্সপেক্টিভে, since we are talking about the marketing, of course there are অনেক ক্রাইসিস আছে, সবগুলো ক্রাইসিস ডিসকাস করতে গেলে আজকে হয়তো আমাদের সময় হবে না আর কি. অলরাইট, তখন হয় কি, আমি যদি ওই পার্সপেক্টিভ, there are certain things যে আসলে আমাদের তখন মার্কেটিং টিম they get fumble, like কি করবে, একটা সাডেন ক্রাইসিস আছে, it was not planned, of course ক্রাইসিস আসলে প্ল্যান করতে আসে না. ওকে, সো হোয়াট আর দ্য কমন মিস্টেকস যখন আসলে আমরা এরকম ফেস করি আর কি?
I think the first mistake that we do is we tend to act on knee-jerk reactions. মানে sudden একটা reaction. I think one of the items that you had mentioned also was, is speed important or is empathy important, right?
Right.
I think to have a much better circumspect understanding, the entire situationটাকে gauge করা is very important.
Right.
That speed, of course speed is important, but not at the expense of things that you don't know about.
Right.
So you have to take an effort of understanding what is going on, what the ramifications of that decision. You don't want to take a very quick decision without understanding how it will impact. And you don't think only about the consumers, you also think about your organization, you think about the market, you think about, there may be many other people or stakeholders who would be affected. So you can't just have a knee-jerk reaction and act like that.
Right.
You do have to think about it. You do have to take a circumspect decision. You do have to bring together, I think. It's very important to work in teams.
Right.
During times of crisis. মানে আমরা যেরকম, and this is you coming back to your previous question when you were telling me, have I faced any make or break situation? I think COVID was, I was in Perfetti at the time, and remember that Perfetti is a confectionery items company where
right.
where we made chewing gum and candies and lollipops and the like. Now, during COVID, people stopped going out.
Right.
The need and the interface or the moment of consumption for small confectionery items, sweet confectionery items, was always in a social setting, was always in an outdoor setting.
Right.
So when people stop going out, when people stop socializing, how in the world am I going to eat? And people don't just sit
Right.
at home and eat chewing gum.
Right.
People don't just sit at home and eat a candy.
Candy, right.
Right? It's not a social. It's not a home consumption. It's not. The moments of consumption are not solitary.
Right.
And not at home.
Right.
So definitely we faced a lot of problem over there at that time. So that was definitely a huge crisis. And we needed
How did you respond to this crisis?
Okay, so I'll give you one brand example at least,
Yeah.
which I think we handled very well. That was Center Fresh.
Okay.
Center Fresh was a brand that was built on the positioning of freshness, leading to confidence, leading to social interactions, preferably with a person of the opposite gender, right? So when you see that the social context has been totally
Disrupted, yeah.
destroyed. You don't have any opportunity to meet anybody, let alone exercise your confidence to do that. We saw that we needed to sort of change the positioning a little bit. And what we did was we moved from social confidence leading to interaction with others to basically how freshness is good for yourself.
Okay.
So
That's interesting.
and we came with a campaign which was freshness behind the mask,
Okay.
because everybody was wearing a
right,
mask.
Right. Now I recall.
Yeah. So that even behind the mask, you get a stale feeling. Because people then had already started going out. They were interacting, but there was not much opportunity for anyone else to smell your breath because we were still having, we were still putting our masks on.
Right.
So at that time, there was an idea, and it was and to be fair, it also came from some external markets, and we thought, hey, we could do something about this with using this.
Okay.
And so we started building on this freshness behind the mask campaign, where we said that, look, the chewing gum is not only for you to attract others, it's also for you to keep fresh and confident
and that
yourself.
idea was cracked by the local team, or is it
okay, so the seed of the idea was actually from abroad, from some case studies that we had studied abroad, how they were dealing with COVID internationally. And then so we brought it to Bangladesh, and we sort of packaged it such that it was locally relevant. Right? So we worked very closely with the agency. We worked closely with the filmmakers. We had a wonderful, I think we took Siam as our ambassador at that time. He did a beautiful job. I think that ad was really good. And, it was all about popping in a Center Fresh before you go out, so that even when you're behind the mask, you can have that Center Fresh and keep yourself going and keep yourself fresh. Because otherwise, once you're wearing the mask all day long, it can get very, tiring, and you feel very dull. So, just keep yourself refreshed. So remember to take a Center Fresh with you.
Because we all went through this phase, like, wearing masks for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
You can actually feel your own breath.
Yes. And it's not a very pleasant feeling.
Exactly. Another important aspect of managing crisis, I think, the reaction time and the tone of the reaction. There was a case of Nestlé back in 2015, I guess.
The monosodium glutamate, Ajinomoto.
Right. I mean, Nestlé waited too long to issue a strong and empathetic response to that issue. So I think it's always a very, very crucial that how and when we are responding to a crisis.
It is very crucial. You have to respond promptly,
and with integrity and clarity and
exactly.
everything.
I think that's another very important part. The fact, and I was, about a week ago, I came across an article, and it came at a relevant time because you were also asking me to speak on the topic. That there's the research that was done regarding marketing in the time of crisis. And what they were saying is that 80% of your messaging should be empathetic. Should be helpful. And only 20% should be geared towards promotional messages about selling. Right? So I think we have to be very careful, whether it is COVID, whether it is some brand-related mishap, whether it is some emergency or accident. I think every marketeer must be forthright in coming up with honesty. That if we made a mistake, we made a mistake.
Admit it.
Admit it. If it's something that we still have not been able to identify, say that we are investigating.
Right.
And and customer first. You are our customers. We will keep you at the forefront of everything we do, and just rest assured that we will not do anything to harm you. And these are the steps that we are doing. And if I could just give you one case study. A little older. This was in 1982. I don't know if you've read about it or heard about it. The Tylenol case study.
Yes.
So that was, I think, it's
a very classic case.
It's a classic case for marketeers, right?
Like Johnson & Johnson didn't rush out to deny or defend themselves. Instead, they recalled, 31 million bottles immediately.
The point is that what did they do? They took, I think, all of 5 days. They always were very, very honest about it.
Right.
We are sorry, we don't know what happened.
Right.
We are looking into what happened. This is what we found. This is not what happened. And they kept everybody informed, number one. Number two is that they never said that it's called the forgiveness mode, where they say they are seeking the forgiveness from the customers. Right. And the point is that they need to earn the trust back. So while they withdrew those 3 million bottles or however many packs they withdrew from the market, what was more important is that they came out stronger and Tuhin, another thing what I want to mention is Crisis actually, parties or companies who operate successfully at the times of crisis have probably come up with a fantastic innovation.
Exactly.
Right? So crisis breeds innovation.
Right.
We know that invention, the necessity is the mother of invention, right? And this necessity actually is heightened. Is heightened at the time of crisis.
Right.
So what Tylenol actually was able to deliver or was to produce as a result of that entire crisis, they came up with the triple seal.
Right. And I think the reason behind it was not their fault.
It was not their fault. There was actually a malified intention of they call it a terrorist, whoever it was.
They tampered the packaging and all.
They tampered the packaging, they tampered with the tablets, they had cyanide-laced tablets, medicine, right? So it was a deliberate attempt to sabotage the brand, right? So the fact that they were able to really go through that entire process with speed and very consciously telling the consumers, you are still the most important stakeholder. We will not do this to you, and we will do our level best to find out what went wrong. I think that was the beauty of the entire case. And they came out stronger. At the end of the day, today they're stronger than ever. Johnson & Johnson,
and they got the trust back immediately. আমরা যদি recently দেখি যে এখন তো আমাদের ওই যে pro-Palestinian.
Oh man, closer to home.
Right. এই যে এত boycott, এত কিছু, I think of course some good brands they had to face a difficult time, right? So recently আমাদের যে গত বছর কোকের একটা campaign.
That's a disaster.
Right.
With all due respect to everybody who was involved, and I know many of the people who were involved in that campaign, it was a disaster.
And surprisingly, they didn't come up with a follow-up campaign or anything.
Absolutely.
They had a chance to come back, with a stronger way, but I don't know what happened to them.
They've been too quiet.
They've been too quiet.
They've been too quiet, and I think the brand is suffering. There are. I would say there are brands worse than Coke who are probably doing worse injustices in that war.
Right.
But just the way that Coke has handled it has been very shoddy. I think I'm not prescribing what they should have done, but I think one of the things is that the biggest mistake they did, and it's not about having operations in Israel or whatever. It was more about making a fool of the consumers.
Right.
I think the whole issue was more about consumers feeling insulted.
Exactly.
That
coming up with the wrong messages or
that
wrong
you don't know
information.
what is your source of information? What are you doing? You don't know what you're saying. Do you not know that we don't even have a factory? It was making a fool of the consumer. And you should never do that. You can never do that. That came so rather than solving the problem or coming out as an empathetic brand that no, we don't have any operations there, you came out as an extremely arrogant brand. Right? So I think that was absolute. And after that, there was no follow-up.
No follow-up.
So in fact, I was just looking and in preparation of today's conversation, actually, and I knew it would come up. I just went to the Coca-Cola Bangladesh Facebook site. They have been silent since May 24 for 1 year.
Right.
They have been absolutely silent. That is ridiculous.
Still there is nothing.
The last post was in May 2024.
Right.
We are in May 2025 now.
Right.
It's just crazy. And I'm like, oh my God, what exactly is going on? And I don't know if they're back on air or not, but at least on Facebook they aren't.
Yeah.
On YouTube I didn't find anything, nothing recent. So what exactly are they doing? So it's quite a dangerous, I don't know, maybe they think silence is a better, maybe that not having that ad would have been better. At that time, silence would have been better. But after doing that ad and creating such negativity, they should have come up with some sort of positive rejoinder or some sort of answer to the consumers. So anyway, yeah, it's a tough call. I think it's very, but I think you need to keep the conversation going with the consumers.
It's a big learning for us, like for all of us.
Speed to respond is important. First mover advantage to talk to the consumers.
Right.
Even before you know what the problem is, you also need to tell the consumer that we are trying to find out what the what the issue is. Right. Even
you
that,
address the issue first.
And we don't know, and you be absolutely frank about that. That look, we are looking into it. We are trying to find out what the issue is. And bear with us. I think that is the first response that you need to give. And while you take time to find out what the actual cause is, right? And the speed is of essence in terms of also trying to find out, right? As you go to find out what that, like as I was saying, that Tylenol example, I think all of it they were able to do within a span of like 1 week, 5 days or something, to identify and get to the crux of the problem. So the fact that they put due enough importance to find out what the issue was. So the speed was there, but they took the right decision, making sure that they got the information correct.
Right.
And from the get-go, the head of business was there up in front saying, we are looking into it. We are trying to find out what it is. So that even though you have not decided what the problem is or how to solve the problem, you've come up to the consumer and told them that we know that we recognize that there's a problem. We admit it. And then we're looking into it.
And immediately you recall all the products in the market.
Yes.
That's the first thing they did.
Absolutely. I think, and I'll give you another example while we're on it. bKash, in its early days, almost every single day, আমাদের কিন্তু প্রতারণার কমপ্লেইন্ট আসতো। হ্যাঁ, আমার বিকাশ থেকে টাকা নিয়ে গেছে, আমার পিন নাম্বার চুরি করছে। First of all, we admit, yes, this can happen. And we had a hot plate. We had those FAQs that how to address these problems. First of all, I cannot give you that money back. bKash doesn't have your money. Right? Somebody else has stolen your money. So, sorry. And you have to talk in an extremely respectful way. তার বোকামির জন্য হতে পারতো, তার whatever-এর জন্য, ignorance-এর জন্য হতে পারতো, whatever. But we have to be very respectful that, look, this is probably what happened. Either কেউ আপনার পিনটা দেখেছে, or you have done the transaction using somebody else's phone, or you've told somebody your PIN number and they've been able to do it, or আপনি retailer যখন এজেন্টের কাছে গেছেন, that's what you did. So every single incident, we could trace it down to certain mishaps or lapses in security on the part of the consumer. And at that point, our job was to educate the consumers. Jeta ekhono, to this day, we still get warning messages, we still get educational messages from banks, not only bKash. পিন কারোর সাথে শেয়ার করবেন না, এই করবেন না, সেই করবেন না, আপনার তথ্য আমাদের ব্যাংকে থেকে কেউ কখনো চায় না, এইসব
কথাবার্তা আরো স্মার্ট হয়ে গেছে
একদম। So the thing is, we are not saying, hey, you're an idiot. But you have to
say that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So ওই রেসপেক্টটা রেখে we have to continue to exert that effort in order to minimize those risks.
Right. So when crisis hits, should brand pause all the marketing activities, or is it smarter to pivot the message or shifting the focus of your brand to another direction?
Sore point with all marketeers, right? That কিছু একটা হলেই যখন সেলস ইম্প্যাক্ট করে you have to cut your budgets
Right.
everywhere. And the easiest budget to cut is the marketing budget. And now as a general manager, হয়তো এটা আমি বুঝি বা general managemenটের perspective থেকে দেখলে, because marketing এর কিন্তু কোনো মানে first of all the ad budget is a non-committed budget. Right? Because it's not like an order that you've placed against an LC. আমি অর্ডারটা ক্যান্সেল করতে পারবো না, শিপমেন্ট হয়ে গেছে বা সামথিং লাইক দ্যাট, ওর আমি একটা বিল্ডিং বানাচ্ছি, বিল্ডিংটা মিডওয়ে আমি বন্ধ করে দিলাম, ওর মাই পিপল স্যালারি আমি তো চট করে কালকে থেকে আমি তো স্যালারি বন্ধ করে দিতে পারি না বা ছাঁটাইও করে দিতে পারি না। সো দ্য ইজিয়েস্ট থিং, দ্য লোয়েস্ট হ্যাঙ্গিং ফ্রুট টু কাট ইজ অ্যাকচুয়ালি দ্য মার্কেটিং বাজেট, রাইট? সো বিকজ এটা কোনো ইমিডিয়েট কনসিকুয়েন্সও নাই, মানে অ্যাডভার্টাইজিংয়ের ইম্প্যাক্টটা তো ইজ আ লঙ্গার টার্ম স্লো বার্ন ইম্প্যাক্ট, রাইট? সো ফার্স্ট অ্যান্ড ফরমোস্ট দ্য অ্যাডভার্টাইজিং বাজেট, তারপর হচ্ছে রিসার্চ, যে ইফ ইউ হ্যাভ এনি রিসার্চ বাজেট অর ইফ ইউ হ্যাভ এনি অ্যাডহক রিসার্চেস, দোজ গো। কোনো রেগুলার রিসার্চ যদি থাকে, ইউভ গট হাউস হোল্ড মনিটর্স অর সামথিং দ্যাট গো অন এভরি মান্থ রেগুলারলি, সেটা হয়তো ইটস a little difficult to cut at the moment. So yeah, it's the most easiest thing, but in our experience, and again I come from my days, COVID days at Perfetti, একটা কিন্তু সাবসিস্টেন্স লেভেল বা মেইনটেনেন্স লেভেলে রাখতে হয়, আদারওয়াইজ ওই যে আউট অফ সাইট আউট অফ মাইন্ড যে হয়ে যায়, দ্যাটস আ রিয়ালিটি।
You have to balance it in a smarter way.
In a very smart way, and I think nowadays because of the advent of digital marketing and the fact that we can be so much more sharp shooting in terms of personalizing our ads to very specific target audiences, you can actually manage your budget much better. আগে যেরকম 1 কোটি টাকা দিয়ে আমার একটা ক্যাম্পেইন করতে হবে টিভিতে, রেডিওতে, প্রেসে, মিডিয়া, বিলবোর্ডে, ওই জিনিসটা হয়তো we've really moved away quite a bit from there. So the 4 Ps have also kind of changed. And with the phygital, the physical and the digital space, even your sales can
like
be
the
tagged to that.
term,
Phygital, yeah. So your how you nowadays, because of digital technology, you can actually in a very cost efficient manner, you can actually close it all the way up to your sales. So whether it is through an online store or whatever, advertising thinking, you can click it through all the way out to the purchase. So all of that makes a lot more sense in the crisis mode. Then you don't really have to go all out. So you can scale it down, and you can scale it down very smartly.
Right.
And even for that matter, even research. এখন what with AI, right? And with social media listening, you can get so much information at a fraction of the cost. You don't have to run FGDs in all parts of the country to find out what your consumer is saying about you. You can run programs and you can just find out. So, I think odik theke marketing expenditure can become much smarter.
And sometimes with the crisis is very hard hitting হয়, তখন you have to balance it out, because at the same time you cannot jeopardize your sales, that has to go on, and at the same time you have to earn back the trust of your consumers.
Yeah.
So এই জন্য একটু স্মার্ট প্লে করে দুইটাই, like instantly cut the budget and doing nothing that may jeopardize your sales and overall
But
business,
coming
right?
back to that Coca-Cola problem, why are they so silent?
Yeah.
I mean, it was really, I was very surprised to see that 2024 May পরে একটা পোস্টও নাই. I mean, that kind of...
I think that was the biggest shock for them.
It was a shock for them, but to the consumer, what is it signaling? That
Right.
it's signaling that they are to blame, or that they are sort of admitting maybe, or because they're not coming back with any sort of rejoinder.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, we have talked enough of Coke's disaster, but there are some good examples as well. I remember during the COVID season, because pre-COVID, ওরা কি করতো, ওদের যে ট্যাগলাইনটা ছিল লাইক ওই যে taste the feeling, like they want to celebrate the unity, the family gatherings, rejoice, everything. And COVID-এর সময় they have actually changed their messages. তখন ওরা বলা শুরু করলো যে staying away is the best way to stay united. Like, okay, that was a wonderful message from, So we expect something this from the brand like Coke. Okay.
Yeah, they've got phenomenal marketing powers, I mean, anyway.
Yeah. Crisis period. So branded loyalty shift হয়. আমার ধারণা কোকের এই ডিজাস্টারটার কারণে অনেক ব্র্যান্ড লয়্যালিটি শিফট হয়েছে। সো আবার অনেক সময় দেখা যায় যে অপোজিটও হয়, বিকজ this crisis, as you said earlier, there are a lot of examples যখন ওই এটাকে স্ট্রেনথেন তো করা যায়, ঠিক আছে? সো আসলে এই লয়ালিটি শিফটটা কোন কোন সময় বা কিসের জন্য আসলে লয়ালিটিটা শিফট হবে, আদৌ হয় কিনা? What do you think?
Okay, first of all, I believe that the relationship with consumers doesn't happen only at the crisis moment, right?
No.
It's a long-standing relationship.
Right.
And consumers, if they are happy with your brand and if you've been able to keep them happy, they won't run away from you.
Right.
Right? So হঠাৎ করে crisis moment I have become your friend, that also doesn't really make sense. আমি এতদিন তোমাকে চিনি না, হঠাৎ করে I'm here to help you out, or vice versa. Crisis আসলো, হঠাৎ করে you don't abandon me either. So the consumer relationship journey is a long one, though I think that's changing in modern times, and especially with Gen Z and Gen Alpha and all of them. They're more fickle and flirtatious with brands and products and services. But so one thing is that they will not really dump you overnight unless you've done something wrong.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Number one. Number two, crisis management, again, people will also have to find the alternatives which are available to them. For example, আমি যদি আমার productটা on the shelf না থাকে, at the time of crisis, the consumer is not going to look around for your brand unless it's a very sensitive product.
Right.
So they will go to the next best option that's available to them, easy at hand, at reach. For example, আমি যদি কোভিডের কথা বলি, যে when the retail shops, they were all strapped for cash. They were all, ওদের ক্যাপিটাল তো লিমিটেড ছিল, ওদের যে স্টকে ইনভেস্ট করতে হতো, as a result of which they were keeping maybe, as we call them, the top 2 hero brands only, or the top 2 hero SKUs only.
No, not at all.
তারপরে কিন্তু যে 3rd, 4th, 5th brand তো were out of the shelves. So if you did not ensure your distribution in those outlets, then the consumer did not have any option but to choose something else.
Right, right.
হ্যাঁ, তো সেখানে যে একদম রিজিডলি লয়াল থাকবে, rigid loyalty বললে তো কিছু নাই, unless it's a very high involvement category.
Right.
So people will, if you're not there, so availability is absolutely key. And one of the things about moments of crisis, especially like COVID, which actually, there was a very big crisis. There was a national, global crisis, international crisis. Distribution was absolutely crucial to ensure that your products were distributed and available. If it wasn't, then you're already out. You're not on media because you've already cut the marketing budget. You've not ensured distribution and availability in the stores. Right. Then why in the world would people come back to you? So you've already lost salience, right? So, but that's of course a very big crisis. Yeah, I think ওইটা একটু cautiously চিন্তা করতে হয় যে loyalty at the expense of what? Nobody is 100% loyal. That's for sure.
No. Yeah, unless until the product is very much attached to your emotions and all.
Yeah.
ঠিক আছে, but আমরা day to day যেগুলো কনজিউম করি, if there is alternative, people will definitely choose the alternative.
Yeah, they're not going to go hunting for it.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a limit.
Exactly. I think this loyalty shift, like if you can make it a formula, like what is strengthens the loyalty or what actually erodes the loyalty. I mean, the action and empathy, you can do it rightly, then your loyalty it will be strengthened. You can strengthen your loyalty with proper action, right time respond kora, and with empathy. Crisis এর কথা বলতে গেলে কোভিড সবসময় আসবে, because as a globally আমরা সবাই we went through this phase. আমার মনে ইউনিলিভারের একটা ক্যাম্পেইন I still remember the way they earned the trust of consumers. ওই যে ওরা Lifebuoy হ্যান্ড ওয়াশের একটা yeah, you use any soap, not just ours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, what a beautiful
I think that is exactly the example of empathy that you want to put out there, right? That it's, we care about you and your health first.
Right.
Not and
our
choose
business,
ours. Choose ours if it's there.
Yeah,
if not, use whatever is there, because your health is primary.
Right.
So yeah, that's absolutely, that's how the tone of voice should be. That we are here to help you. We're not here to push our product.
Right. Right. Fantastic.
Yeah. And another thing at the time of crisis is, I think Tuhin, what I would say is, it also একটা তো বললাম that it generates innovation, right? It creates innovation. You think differently in order to operate in that moment of crisis in a different world. So innovation is one. The other thing is, I think if you do it right, you also, or in order to do it right, what you need to do is work together with the different departments.
Right.
Because it's not only marketing's problem. Say, for example, again, COVID-এর কথাই বলছি, efficiency. Because you are cutting costs, operational efficiency becomes absolutely crucial.
Right.
Your ability to forecast your numbers is also very crucial. So the salespeople have to be very much in tune.
Right.
Marketing এটা বলছে যে আমি এটার অ্যাড দিব, কিন্তু সেলস যদি বলে যে না এটা কিন্তু অ্যাড দিয়ে লাভ হচ্ছে না, you have to look at something else. You have to listen to them.
Right.
Sales department needs to also provide that transparency and support to their trade customers. In the meantime, operations, meaning supply chain, will also need to deliver as per your requirements. And if they are facing any crisis, marketing needs to listen to them as well.
Of course.
That আমার তো এই মালটা আসে নাই, ওটা তো সুয়েজ ক্যানালের ওই ক্রাইসিসে ওটা আটকা পড়ে গেছে, I can't have this. So I need to make alternative plans to sell what product I can produce. So all of the departments really need to come together as a team. They need to integrate in order to put that front which is strong to meet the consumer, I mean, they have to really work together in unison.
Right.
So all the cogs and wheels need to work together.
Exactly.
Otherwise কিন্তু infighting হয়ে আরো গুবলেট হয়ে যাবে, right? So
True.
yeah.
So you have handled both mass market and premium brands. So does transparency or openness work the same way for all the audiences during tough times?
I don't think Crisis has a name or number for whether it's a premium product or a mass product.
Okay.
Depending, every market is different, every product is different, every TG is different. So you'll have to be very specific about which product and how it will impact. Again, Coke is a mass market product.
But still, yeah.
And then you could also you were talking about cars. That at least it's a more high involvement product, even if it's not, it may not be mass market. But, everything warrants its own crisis management. I don't think Crisis comes with a price tag.
Price tag, okay.
With the kind of product. So.
Okay, what I was trying to say, what kind of long-term trust or brand value can be created by responding to a crisis?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think we mentioned this a little earlier as well, that trust is not created in a day.
Right.
And it is not trust. It can be created at the moment of crisis, but for example, Dettol মতো একটা brand, everybody knows it, everybody trusts it, whether I use it or not. So when Dettol comes into the market with a hand sanitizer, I'm already kind of positively inclined to it.
Right.
Because it brings with it a historical, in this case, it was good equity.
Right.
Bad equity হতে পারে। যদি bad equity হতো তাহলে it would bring a lot of baggage and I would not touch it.
Right.
তার মানে এখান থেকে ওরকম একটা ব্র্যান্ড থেকে যদি এসে থাকে, I would not touch it with a 10-pole stick even, right? So it's important to build that trust irrespective of crisis. So, and you don't build that trust overnight.
No.
Lots of brands হয়তো came in. আমরা আরো কি জানি ব্র্যান্ড দেখলাম তখন isopropyl alcohol দিয়ে হ্যান্ড স্যানিটাইজার আসলো, এটা সেটা
লোকালি অনেক ব্র্যান্ড
চলে আসলো, but then again they fizzled out. So ultimately long term brand building কিন্তু এরকম হচ্ছে না। ক্রাইসিসের সময় আসছে, একটা মোমেন্টারি ব্লিপ ইন নিড আসলো, সেই নিডটা ফিড করে তারপর কিন্তু ব্র্যান্ডটা আবার fizzled out.
Right.
So ওই ট্রাস্টটা is definitely important to grow, and we need to remember that কাস্টমারদের সাথেও another learning during the COVID times was that a lot of the companies remained true to their customers, partners, truly partners, that do you need help? আপনার ফ্যামিলিতে সবাই ঠিক আছে কিনা? Salesforce went out and asked them. যে আপনারা সবাই, do you need help? Because everybody's ব্যবসা is down. And when you stand by their side at moments of crisis, they will also stand by your side eventually.
Of course.
So that long-term relationship কিন্তু এই যে ট্রেডের সাথেও ম্যানেজ করা, বিল্ড করা is also very important to get you through those crisis moments. So in your time of crisis, they will stand by your side.
Both consumer and trade, both our stakeholders.
Absolutely. যে হুট করে আমি জানি আমার দাম বেড়ে যাচ্ছে, আমার ওই তখন তো সুয়েজ ক্যানালের প্রবলেম হলো, সব কিছু ইনপুট প্রাইসেস বেড়ে যাচ্ছে, এখন ডলারের জন্য, ইনফ্লেশনের জন্য, আমাদের টাকা ডিভ্যালুয়েশনের জন্য সব কিছু দাম বেড়ে যাচ্ছে. Doesn't mean that আমি overnight I'm going to change the price.
Right.
I have to, that I'm going to raise the price.
Right.
So I also have to kind of hold on to my horses, remember that no, consumer purchasing power tao to is something to consider.
Right.
So আমি যদি এটা বাড়িয়ে দেই, ultimately the customer will know that I am doing it as a মানে profiteering এর জন্যই হোক বা আমার ব্যবসার জন্য without taking them into consideration.
We are looking for our benefits, like
And not really keeping them in our consideration.
Right.
So I think that's very important, and customers aren't stupid, right? So they
not
will
at
also
all.
see through that. ও টাকা বাড়ছে, দাম বাড়ছে, ওরা ওটা ধাই ধাই করে টাকা বেড়ে। এই যে ডিমের কথাটা, it's just ridiculous. ডিম মানে why did the price of eggs go up so rapidly?
Right.
মানে মুরগির দাম, anyway, that's another story, but yeah. So I think it's important to maintain that trust and goodwill from, irrespective of crisis time, so that at the time of crisis, they can stand beside you. Or you will stand beside them also.
As I mentioned earlier, I think all departments must speak the same language while facing a crisis of a brand. Like misalignment can confuse or frustrate customers more. So what internal alignment is needed between marketing and other departments during a brand crisis, you think, from your experience?
Best example, যেটা বিকাশের কথা বললাম।
Okay.
And ওটা I think we were very well in sync as well. যে legally আমার কি বলতে হবে, আমার রেগুলেটর অনুযায়ী আমার কি বলতে হবে, মার্কেটিং থেকে আমার কনজিউমারকে সামনে রেখে, কাস্টমারকে সামনে রেখে কিভাবে কথা বলতে হবে। So we really sat together. We sat together with the head of business as well, and and we had that that 360-degree view. That let's give a thorough statement যে আচ্ছা fraud prevention করার জন্য what you should do.
Right.
And how much is bKash's liability? How much is your own liability? Because bKash was not going to take that liability for your, slip-ups. But we couldn't say it that way. That we are here to help you. This is what you need to do. Please call our customer care.
Right.
So the tone of voice is very important. And সেখানে customer care should also speak like that. এই আপনি মিয়া কিছু জানেন না, আপনি এটা করছেন কেন, এটা you don't talk like that. Right, so the tone of voice, how you address the problem, marketing theke, what is the message that's going out, legally are we covered, everything has to be circumspect, it has to be done properly. সব একসাথে বসে, বারবার আমি বলছি ক্রাইসিসের সময় the teams need to sit together. There's a lot to be said about internal marketing, about internal coordination. So and crisis in most cases is not only a marketing issue.
Right. It should not be.
It should not be. It cannot be, because তারপরে তো এটার ramifications হবে. এটার there will be impacts that will ripple through the entire organization. So you will have to talk to everybody. And again, and another thing which I face, which I think a lot of the organizations don't want to share with the other departments.
Right.
A lot of the departments don't want to say চুপে চাপে ধামা চাপা দিয়ে কোনো রকম বাইরে হয়ে যাওয়া যায় কিনা, এটা ওদেরকে বলারই দরকার নেই. There's a lot of silos, invisible silos that we work in, right? So I think those need to be broken down, especially in times of crisis.
Right.
Because you don't want people to be different departments to be talking in different languages.
True, absolutely.
Yeah.
Nicely articulated. আসলে এই clarificationটা দরকার ছিল. What advice would you give to the future marketers, to building a resilient brand?
Okay, it comes to the same answer, right? It is about being the custodian of the customer. We recognize first and foremost that we are here because of our customers. So the customers have to be with us. We have to be with them. The marketing department remains the voice of the customer in the organization. So finance, প্রায়ই কিন্তু ফাইন্যান্সের থেকে অনেক চাপের ফেস করি. Everybody has, I think. Whether it's profit, whether it's cash flow, whether it is কেন অ্যাডভার্টাইজমেন্ট কেন করতেছেন, এটা কোনো দরকার নাই, এমনিই তো বিক্রি হচ্ছে, so on and so forth, right? So we have to continue to be custodians of the customer, listen to what they're saying, understand what your competition is also doing, right? You have to have your eyes and ears out there. In moments of crisis, so even more so, right? Of course. Right, that you really need, because তখন nuances গুলো are very important.
True.
You don't really know you are asking one of the questions that how do you know whether this will blow up or not. একটা complaint may or may not blow up.
Right.
When do you ignore, when do you take it? It's not something you can take lightly. Listen to that, come back and do whatever is required to rectify it. You need to, I think the job of a marketeer is largely a general manager position, because you have to do so much in terms of just coordinating efforts. You're not only the custodian of the customer or the consumer, you are also the coordinator for all the activities that go at the background. So, Amra, we often forget that marketing is not only about advertising. And I think in a lot of local companies, it is reduced to advertising or trade offers, right?
True.
Rather than that, এখানে কিন্তু আমার product আছে, আমার, whether it's the price, how do you want to price it? How do you want to package it? Is it a smaller unit? Is it a larger unit? Larger volume, smaller price point গুলা দেখতে হবে. Productটা কি? Is it in the right size, shape, flavor, formula, fragrance, color? You know, I learned a lot during my Unilever days, although it was only 3 years. Shampoo develop করেছি, সাবান develop করেছি. Like, look at the Lux and the halal scenario, the halal aromatic যখন আসলো. That was a huge crisis for them. But, you know, they went back to the problem and they fixed the product because the product was not good. And it wasn't a matter of halal and haram at that point. The product itself was an inferior product to what aromatic had brought. Right. So, you know, they had to take a good, long, hard look at themselves. Right. So you need to be willing to do that. And the fact that, you know, everybody came together, whether it was product, engineering, production, everybody. So the lesson is that remember that it's not only advertising, and you need to coordinate the efforts of your production team, your sales team, your trade marketing team, your finance team, and to sort of align that vision with yours. Because otherwise you're just an arm that is not talking to the rest of the body.
Right. Yeah, we do a lot of activities to build a brand equity, but I think Crises is another opportunity to build a stronger brand. And that brings us to the end of this powerful discussion of Marketing Unboxed. Heartfelt thanks to Sania for sharing your deeper understanding and what it takes to lead a brand during a crisis. If you are someone steering up a startup or running comms for any major brands, this episode will give you tools and truths to navigate your brands during the chaos. Until next time, keep unboxing the future of marketing.